Hey guys, welcome back. What a day. Eagle Trading did not expect us to go as low as we did. We had the price points from the morning newsletter, and they were based on our Fibonacci of SPY. And the resistance levels on the top end were 287.29 and 288.57. And if we look on the top end today, I believe the high was 287.19 and our high was 287.29. So I actually shorted some at 286.95 and rode this sucker down. I covered a little bit earlier than I wanted to, but it is what it is. So the bottom end was shockingly low, 278.96. I hadn't even charted that low, to be honest with you. The lowest I charted was 283.14, and it looks like 283.14 was literally right in here where we bounced and then failed, and then just the floor came out hard. Pretty amazing. So you can see that at this point where there's a head and shoulders on the daily, we've already broken the head and shoulders on the hourly. We did not break the neckline on this daily head and shoulders just yet, and it barely held in there. So can the market continue to go lower? Yeah, but it probably has to bounce first. So here's your shoulder, here's your head area, and then there's the right side shoulder, and the neckline is right in there. If we can kind of zoom in and see, here's your closed tail, false break, reversal of the upside, retest, bounce, overshoot, and then pull back. And the distance between these two points of selling is pretty equal to the distance on this one. We're a little bit higher high here and a little bit higher low here, a little lower high and a little lower low. So I'd expect some type of a bounce tomorrow. Not really sure how much we regain of that. We could actually kind of look at a Fibonacci retracement of that. I mean, we literally just gapped down. The high of the day barely got into the candle from the low of the other day. So this is the most severe 2-day selling that we've had since we've kind of stabilized in here. Absolutely. So can we retrace, I don't know, halfway up that and get back up to 284 before rolling back over? If we do, I would say so. And I would say, if we're trying to look for stability here, we probably need multiple closes over that 284 area. I'd probably say we need multiple closes over 284.60. And obviously we'd probably want to get over 285.46 to kind of negate this downtrend that we've seen here. We're now below all the moving averages on the SPY. We're just overdone to the downside, so expecting a bounce before we stair step lower if that's the scenario. So trading stocks today, there was one that I shorted today. It was beautiful. They came out earnings and they just crushed it. I don't even know how to look it up on my Thinkorswim. QQQ looking pretty stellar still. Thought this would be more of a pullback. Everything was pretty much equal across the board. IWM is what we're going to be looking at for bounces, but we got to get a little bit more downside. Obviously, they're the weakest one right now on the pullbacks. Held the channel. Let's get rid of this channel here because I don't think that's in the cards yet. And actually, we don't want to clear the whole drawing set. So the Q's bounced along the channel that we drew last night. Pretty spot on. You can see it right in here if we kind of zoom in on that channel right here. And it could be off just a hair, but you can see the bounce right off of there. And we regained about a third of the downward move. The high actually is in the mid part of the candle of the prior day yesterday on the Qs. So we're in pretty much day trading mode now. SHOP is the stock to buy in pullbacks. Just for day traders here. So what are you trying to do here? If you're trying to buy, you're trying to find the strongest stocks, the Netflix, the Microsofts, but where do we buy them? And whether they stair step lower doesn't matter, because when the market's coming in hard these are the ones we want to buy. And if you didn't have any price history behind you and all you had is this during the day, I don't like to chase stuff out of the open. I like to wait till stuff kind of changes shape and let it talk to me a little bit, and let it kind of form some type of a channel that reverses in shape. And I'm looking for RSIs pinned really low, and I'm also kind of coordinating that with some areas that I'm looking for on the SPY. But you can see this really gets nailed down here. And the important candles I'm looking at are this break in here, because if you're just kind of looking at this little back and forth, you're saying, okay, it's holding somewhat of a, it popped out of the open, kind of held this little area here, and it kind of held in here. But then once you start to break down, this is one candle that has started to break down, and we kind of pushed up through here a little bit, but then it fails this little area right here, right? If you're holding it and you're like, okay, there's the bounce, and then you're holding it and then you get stopped out, this candle here is important. Look at the volume on that one too. So now we found another important candle, and then you start to pull back here, and now you're getting really slammed on the RSI, right? Big time. But what do you see here? Some bullish divergence. Lower prices, but the RSI is getting some divergence. So now it's on the radar, waiting for the MACD cross. You get the MACD cross, and next thing you know, you break higher here out of this little kind of cup and handle formation, and then you fire, you break through shape change, you pull back, and that's where you want to buy it and set your stop at the low of the day. Because if you buy in there, the 720, even if you bought this candle here when you have the RSI divergence and you get the MACD cross, you can see the MACD here cross over. If we go straight up from the MACD cross, that was at 1220. That's pretty much right at the low of the day. So let's say you picked up some at 718, 719, 720, grab 50 shares, you stop it out, low of the day, let's say 716, your downside risk is maybe 2-3 points, $150. This thing just takes off to the upside. Now you get a MACD cross to the bullish side, right? Bullish side, big volume candle, and now you're starting to really get cooking here. You get some shape change, right? You've negated the downward trend, you pull back, and then you blow through it and you leave it behind. Now you're starting to stretch away from the lower VWAP number. You have some gap there, now you're really starting to gap away from the yellow line. And then the rest of the day you just ride in this channel all the way into the close at 757. Unbelievable move. 35 points from the low, 40 points from the low. It's not bad on 50 shares, that's $2,000. So that was that. I don't know the exact one that I'd shorted. I got to look it up again. But it was beautiful. They count earnings. They were up like 190% today. But if you look at the earnings, it said part of it was from insurance money. So I shorted 1,500 shares. I covered a little bit too early. I'm a little hot on the trigger, man. I had some good action today. CODX, which I blasted on StockTwits and 8Crow. This thing looked sharp, man. This daily chart is ridiculously stellar, so I bought some of this. This stock has been on a tear, man. They're expecting good earnings, I'm sure, and people are buying the hell out of this stock. I don't know if it's just a short squeeze, a combination of everything, but this stock has been rocking and rolling. It literally curled right up off that 45, 50-day moving average, fired up, and it's tested this old pivot level, which I thought it would fail at. And here I started saying this thing's ugly, it's going to go to the 8s. And man, it reversed and broke through there, kind of back tested this area right in here and just took off. I drew a channel along the bottom, right on this pivot here, right on this reversal here, because the tail I didn't want to catch. And I mean, I'm catching all these price points perfectly along here. If you draw that channel on the top, it literally lines up perfectly with today's close. Is that coincidental? I don't know. Doesn't mean it can't go higher, but what a move, man. 23.50. This thing is on fire. So I got some ITCI today. We're really narrowing down our scope of interest on stocks. I bought 1,200 shares. I'm trying to get rid of 300 in after hours. I don't know if I mentioned that or not. But there's my 300 on ARCA. Look at this guy trying to undercut me at 2064. I got 300 at 2065 on EdgeX. I'm sorry, he's in ARCA. I'm right here. 2065 extended. I don't want to be that heavy on anything right now. The market's too sketchy. So we're down to day trading only. I figured out that on the newsletter, man, it's very hard for me to come back in and say I'm buying shop, I'm shorting this. I just, once my mind gets focused on trading, you know, best thing is to catch me on Twitch, like I was talking with my son today, kind of showing him some stuff that we were doing. I think I showed him the one I was short on. I don't even remember what it is now. But, I mean, I don't know what to tell you about this market, guys. It looks like it's still a day trader's market, to be honest with you. SIF was the one I shorted. SIF. This thing was a beautiful short. It took me a few times. It stopped me out. That little son of a you-know-what. It got me a few times. And then I just pulled my stops and said, this thing's coming down. So you can see the lines I make intraday here, but this thing popped. And once again, I don't know how high these are going to go, so I got to kind of wait for them to make shape change. And this one, I had shorted 1,500 shares, and the I wanted to add later, and Thinkorswim said the shares are not borrowable, even though I had 1,500 short. So here's the shape change I'm looking for. It pops up. I mean, they're running this thing high to the upside. I know those guys on Warrior Trading were day trading this thing. It pops up again, and now it's kind of doing this little gradual fade, and I'm like, this thing looks like it's ready to roll over. So I shorted it in here, looking for it to break lower, but it pivoted and went higher. So now I have a point of reference. So I shorted it. I believe I shorted it in here, and then got stopped out on this candle. And then once it started doing this pattern, I said, this is it. I shorted it here and just pulled my stops. I didn't even put a stop in anymore. At 4, I don't think I was that high. I think I was in at 477 and just wrote it down. It got into the threes, but I covered at 422. A little disappointing that I couldn't have held more. I sold, I covered a little bit here and there, but once it made this little pattern where it was just kind of making lower highs, I was like, this thing's cooked. So sometimes it's better to just step back and look at the bigger picture. You know, I'm getting stopped out here. I'm trying to figure this thing out. And then this is the candle where it broke, and it was good to see that I drew that bottom trend line there, right? Right along in here. It's a little sloppy, but that candle was big, and that was it. That's all she wrote for the rest of the day on that one. So we're back to day trading mode. It's good to see at least some stuff that was up today, some speculative stuff. Alibaba looks kind of flat. I don't know if they reported after the close. Boston Scientific, we had to sell some of that. It was starting to look weak. Some of the speculative stocks were up today. Moderna and mRNA was up today. It kind of lets you know the market's still a little bit bubbly here, so not looking for a crash. Believe it or not, today was only down 2% and change. It's as bad as it looked. It wasn't that bad, but the internals are getting really disgusting here, because a lot of stuff that I like and follow for value I had to let go. I mean, MWA, Mueller Water. I mean, I can't keep holding these stocks. I mean, this is one that I liked. You know, we liked it in here, but now it's, you know, look at this. It gaps up on earnings, runs right into the 200-day moving average. I probably should have sold it there, and then it just starts breaking down. You know, it's hitting our Fibonacci fan numbers, but you know, what are we gonna do if we step back and we clear all this out? It's ugly, you know. Let's remove the old drawing set here. I mean, that's not pretty. I mean, even if we drew a simple chart like this, we're not holding, you know. And then I got to start looking for horizontal support. We're below all the moving averages, you know. Now it's just it's a guessing game, you know. It just doesn't make sense. So there's a lot of liquidation going on in the market for sure. Last thing we'll look at is the IWM. Oh, yeah. Another chart that we drew last night. Look at that. It's not bad, right? Spot on. I mean, at least they're hitting my channels, right? There's a little channel along there. Another one that's 2 days of overselling. Got a bounce there. Who knows where this bounces to? Maybe it gets back up close to the 20-day moving average at 125.32. I don't know. It's tough to say, but we had a nice move in here. It's just when this trend line right here broke. Let's get this one out of there. The liquidity in the market, I don't know, it just seems to be drying up. Jerome Powell didn't do too much good for the market today, but that break in there was, I guess, the ugly break that we didn't want to see, 128.93. So we step aside and see if these have more to go to the downside, but like I said, they're probably going to stair step if they're going lower. At least we have a point of reference here. You start breaking below today's low, and you're probably going to go down and retest the 117 area on IWM, but you know, oversold. At least we didn't close the lows of the day. That's a positive. And we'll regroup tomorrow and see what goes on. GBTC was actually strong today. 1120 close up. Not bad. People look like they were kind of going into this during the day. Like it was a hedge, you know. It's not a bad curl up. I mean, we're stair stepping our way higher. You know, can we make another dip on GBTC and get down to the low 11s? Yeah, we certainly could. But not too shabby. Not too shabby. We'll regroup later, guys.